By way of introduction, my name's Doug McPherson. I'm one of the two directors at Size 10.5 Boots. We're a specialist BD agency that works solely with professional service firms. At the moment, I'd say about 80% of our work is in the legal sector, which is right across from law firms to patent and trademark attorneys and barristers. And to summarise, we help them with the relationship part of the business development piece, beer and coffee, just making sure that they're going out and building the right type of relationships to help them win more work. Last year, the SJ published my first book, which was The Visible Lawyer, which is based on a lot of practical experience working with clients. The way that we look at business development, we kind of break it down into 4 different areas, which are networking, both formal and informal, speaking, public speaking, internal speaking, whatever it might be, writing, articles, blogs, any type of content, and then the research, which is often the element that a lot of people forget. So it's really finding out where the writers write, where the networkers network, and where the speakers have to speak. And The Visible Lawyer was really a collection of all of those practical tips and tricks. Package, position and profit is more looking at the firm, so trying to help people build a real marketing strategy that will deliver the kind of results that they want to deliver, help them achieve the kind of success commercially that they want to achieve, and just again completely practical, straightforward, down to earth, help them build the right message for the right audience. What the book provides for the legal sector is really a blueprint, how to build your value proposition, how to choose which level of the market you want to go into, and one of the things that I look at is all of the different levels of the legal market. So a lot of people, for example, would think that a private client practice has to go for high net worth individuals. That's a phrase that we hear a lot when we're working with clients. That's not necessarily the case. Maybe you do want to be at the high street end of the market. And the same with commercial businesses. Not everybody can go for the large PLCs. Some people have to go for the more local owner-managed businesses. So it's just really a practical blueprint to help people choose the right position in the market, formulate the right message for the market, and then finishing up with some advice on pricing, because obviously the message is one thing, the product is another, but you have to price it correctly for the market that you choose. So it's really just going back to what I learned on my first day of my marketing degree, which was the 4 Ps, product, placement, proposition, price, and applying it to a legal context in an easy and hopefully clear way. Since the Legal Services Act and the last recession, I think it's become definitely the most competitive legal market we've ever seen. You've got new market entrants, you've got people like the larger accountancy firms starting to launch legal arms, you've got barristers starting to look at direct access options, then there's people like the co-op getting involved. I couldn't see the legal market progressing much further without people like John Lewis and Virgin getting involved. So I think it's massively important that law firms actually take a look at what they do, who they do it for, and start doing it in a more commercial, corporate and strategic way. And again, the book, Package, Position and Profit, that's exactly what it's about. I think anybody involved in leading a law firm today should read it. That includes the managing partner, chief exec, if they've gone down that route, definitely the chief marketing officer or marketing director in a UK context. Anybody that's interested in taking their practice forward should really read it. We're also working more and more with heads of department, leaders of sector teams. Again, all of the advice in there, all of the models, all of the structures are equally as applicable to an individual's practice or a team's practice as much as the firm overall. I think that there is definitely a case to say that every firm is different. However, I also think that the fundamentals of marketing apply to every firm, and the processes and the structures behind those steps are very, very similar. Obviously the answers you're going to come out with are different. Everybody's value proposition, for example, is going to be completely different. Everybody's looking at different sets of clients, different industry sectors, different people within, the general population to win as clients. But the models in there are specifically set up to apply to any firm, irregardless of the answers that you come up with and the markets that you want to penetrate. The client value proposition is basically your promise to the market. It's the 2, 3, maybe 4 tops things that you absolutely deliver for the fees that your clients are paying you. It's what they call in sales training the benefit. It's what people can tangibly feel as a result of working with you. So it might be that you're forward thinking, it might be that you're traditional, but what you need to do is explain what those things actually mean to the client and propose where they're going to get the value from. I think it's absolutely fundamental to every stage of the marketing process, and also something that all of the fee earners need to be able to explain, because in its simplest terms, it really is the answer to, well, why should I choose your firm? We're quite often asked what the difference between a value proposition and a brand is. Although we go into it in much more detail in the book because it's a massive subject, my simple answer is the value proposition is tangible, it's a promise. It's what you're actually going to do for the client. It's something that the client understands because it relates to the way they want to be served and the way they want to receive their legal advice. My personal feeling is that branding is a lot more ethereal. It's a lot more about what you understand when you hear a name, what you feel when you hear a name. And as it goes on to explain in one of the chapters in the book, the positioning chapter specifically, is that it's all very well to look at branding, but get your value proposition in place first and foremost. Choose the segment of the market you want to go after second, and then if you lead into the branding, absolutely fine, but it isn't fundamental in a legal context in the same way as it is to consumer goods, FMCG, media, or any of those type of products. One of the things that we wanted to do with the book is try and bring it into a practical context. So very early on, I suggested to the editor that we might want to speak to some firms. And the editor was very supportive of that and allowed us to interview 3 UK firms and then put forward 3 US firms, because I thought it would be interesting to make the comparison between the way that the UK and the US's law firms position, package themselves. And it was a really useful exercise. All of those interviews are written up as case studies within the book, chapter 6, I believe. And the most interesting part is the conclusion I drew was, one, the UK and the US are doing very, very similar things in very similar ways, which is really good to see, because that obviously means, you know, the more people that are taking that approach obviously cements the fact that it's the right approach to be taking. And the second thing was, I mentioned 4 Ps slightly earlier. The one thing that stood out from all of those case studies was there's actually a 5th P, which is people. All of it comes down to people at the end of the day, whether those people are your fee earners, the support staff, the marketing staff, or your clients, because they're all people as well. It's all about relationships, and you've got to be able to package yourself and articulate that in a way that's going to draw those people in to make the first inquiry and allow you to build those relationships. For me, the book's a practical guideline. There's so much written about marketing which is completely impenetrable. It seems to be one of those subjects which, like law in some quarters, has almost reinvented its own dictionary. What we've tried to do here is just simplify it, make it as easy as humanly possible. A law firm has a product, a certain number of people want to buy that product. How do you draw the line in between? How do you take that to market in a way that's actually going to mean something to somebody? And my only advice that I can actually give people is to find out exactly how to do it, buy the book and read it.